kissing and biting.
Okay, we're live.
Phone, girls.
Okay.
Okay, we'll effectively call the Manistee
Over,
Brownfield Authority redevelopment to order of July 9th at 4:05. And call to order, and the roll call, I'm assuming been taken already, right? Ed? And then we could move to the approval of the agenda. At this time, the Brownfield Authority can take action to approve or amend the July 9th, 2024 agenda. So we need a motion and a second.
I'll make a motion to.
And you'll do the second.
I'll do the second.
Okay, and all in favor, say aye, aye. So we're all set there, right, Ed?
Yep.
Okay.
All right.
Public comment, agenda items, anytime Chair will ask, are there any public comments on agenda items? Any public comment on agenda items, I asked. Okay, approval of minutes. At this time, Brownfield Redevelopment Authority can take action to approve the April 23rd, 2024 meeting minutes. So we need a motion for that, correct? Okay, so we make the motion now, and then you second. Ready? Okay.
Tell us how to do this.
I'll make
the second.
That is just an idea, a suggestion. Okay, any discussion? We all passed. In favor? Say aye. A public hearing, how's that? We have none scheduled. The financial report, we can move along then to Ed, correct?
Yep, so I included the invoice that was paid since the last meeting and then a copy of the financial statements. My only comments are I'll be doing a distribution to the active brownfield plans here sometime by mid-August. That's at the same time we have to file our annual report. So those numbers will come down quite a bit because there's, I think, $130,000 that has to get distributed amongst the various plans. So those are taxes that we captured over the course of the last year, and then we distribute them out. I don't know if anybody has any questions on any of that.
No question. Okay. Do you want a motion to approve?
Yeah, motion to approve the invoices and financial statements.
Seconded.
Alrighty, and you made a motion.
I made that motion.
You seconded, so you can. Any discussion? All in favor say aye. All right,
Aye.
so where are we now then, Ed?
Okay, so we have two items of new business on the agenda. One is to approve a brownfield plan for the 141 Washington Street redevelopment project.
Yes.
And then the second item is to approve the development and reimbursement agreement for the 141 Washington Street project. As I think we talked before, Roger, that if those are approved here today, then they go in front of City Council. They push the meeting back an extra week to be able to kind of accommodate this. So that needs to get on. The reason this is kind of going through rather quickly, and we'll let Kevin, who's on the call, talk about that a little bit, is some of the financing with MEDC. We kind of had our backs up against the wall in terms of needing to get them some information, approved plans, so that they could put that in their packet for their meeting. But Kevin, do you want to talk a little bit about your project? I also have your renderings that I can put up on the screen too. But why don't you introduce yourself to the board and just kind of talk through what that project looks like?
You don't want to, it's up to you, girls.
Absolutely. Thank you, Ed.
Yeah.
Good afternoon, everyone. I'm happy to report that the project at 141 Washington Street is moving forward, at least in the best possible light that I could imagine currently. The things seem to be falling into place. One of the issues and the reason why we're here today is the brownfield plan. With the MEDC, we have to submit full development prints, plans, financial modeling, and how the project looks not only now and after completion, 10 years, 20 years into the future. And although we were approved the OPRA district and we have the OPRA to help offset the property taxes, the cost of construction and the financial senior debt required to carry the project forward is relatively significant compared to the amount that we can receive in rents currently from the city of Manistee, just average rental market. So the brownfield comes into play later in the project. This is 15 one-bedroom apartments and some commercial space in that old Northern Hotel building. And the reason why it's needed is after the OPRA wears out in like 13 years from now, we are the project suffers a little bit to the point where MEDC said, gosh, this is no longer a stable project. It is when we close and when we get stabilized, but after the OPRA wears out, this is a big sticking point, and we're not really comfortable moving things forward unless we have a plan for that. So that's why the Brownfield plan is kicked in. The reason why the timeline seems so short is they submitted to us an LOI. We have a certain time frame in order to get all the information back to them in order to be approved without having to reapply and go through extensions with the MEDC, and that timeline is just a little bit tight. So Ed's been doing everything he can in order to help push this process through so we can get our documentation over to the MEDC for approval and we can get the project actually moving forward.
So, does that kind of, I mean, like I said, the timing was fast, but we've been working really collaboratively to try to get this in front of the authority and in front of the council in a time frame that works for Kevin. Roman, do you want to talk a little bit about the Brownfield plan itself and kind of what is in it and the local only component of it and why we had to do it that way and some of that stuff?
Yep, sure. Kevin kind of hit on this earlier. The tax abatement runs for 12 years, so that basically freezes taxes, and there are no local taxes to capture. This is a plan that really isn't asking for a ton of reimbursement, so it's not being presented to the state of Michigan, so there won't be state tax capture. And in order to keep this moving, and in light of MEDC partnering and offering grant assistance on the project, and them wanting to see the Brownfield plan approved by the local unit, local only was the best option to go. And essentially there's 5 years on the back end. That's local only capture for about $240,000 in eligible activity expenses. And those are primarily, there's a good amount of interior select demolition that's got to happen. There's site prep with utilities. There's some due diligence work. There's temporary site control, and some construction soft costs associated with the eligible activities. And then when you factor in contingency and the cost of preparing a brownfield plan, and then implementation, so on the back end, paperwork getting filed with a reimbursement request to the city so that reimbursement can take place. You add all that up, and that's where that $236,000 comes from. So that would be captured on the back end once the tax abatement is done. There will be no local deposit into the revolving loan fund. And Ed might be able to speak a little bit to that point, but based on the city's contribution with abatement and the local only, that this is a project where it didn't really seem to make a lot of sense to tack on anything on the back end, given that this plan goes out 17 years. So the Brownfield plan itself is just essentially 5 years. The abatement is what is 12 years ahead of that. So any questions on that?
Kevin, can you address too, for the board's benefit, the grant that you got through the land bank and what that's going to cover in the project and the amount of that?
Sure. Yeah, the land bank has given our project, they've awarded us a blight and stabilization grant. So all of the blight work that needs to be done is being handled by the state land bank and the county land bank. And what that includes is essentially everything that you look at from the exterior and anything that needs to be stabilized on the inside. So peeling away all of that old nasty paint that's on the building, doing all the new masonry, tuck pointing to make the building look as it did back in the 1800s, historic storefronts and windows, new roof, and then shoring some of the inside walls that are essentially make the building unsafe. And that, Ed, I don't have it sitting right in front of me. It's 1.59 million to do that. So the blight and stabilization from the land bank is coming in to do that work. And essentially, once that happens from the street, the curb appeal of the building will look brand new. The inside will still be a mess, but it will look really nice from the outside. So that was a big win for the project. Very excited to get that work going sooner than later.
And just so everyone knows as well, this is a layered incentives. You know, there's many times make a project happen, you're layering incentives, but none of them are double dipping, so to speak. So, you know, they're all separate tasks in different buckets that will be pulling from those incentives. So that's something that we've evaluated and made sure that that's not happening.
Could I ask, Ed, do we know, or have the number of rooms that are involved in this? That is anticipated, was it 20 or 40 or
So Kevin, how many apartments are you gonna end up with?
apartments? Or?
There's going to be 15 one-bedroom apartments, and then the front lower level of the building will remain that commercial retail space. During construction, we're just white boxing the space until we land on an actual long-term tenant.
Well, it looks like you've got two, 700 plush and then one about 2,200. Do you have any thoughts on who might go in there? Or are you still kind of prospecting?
We're prospecting. We've had some people walk through. And if you guys have walked through the building anytime recently, you know that walking through there, their eyes go big and they go, oh my gosh, this is going to be a while. We need something now. And I don't want to wait a year and a half until this building's ready to go. So the stance that we're taking currently is this blight and stabilization, once this is done and people can see that this is a real project and it's moving forward and the building's going to be beautiful again, I think then we'll be able to secure a long-term tenant. But what I have in mind and what I'm looking for is some kind of like a higher-end grocery meat market type of place. And then in polling the city, they also thought that potentially a pharmacy would be a really good ad, but currently it's all still speculative until we find somebody that would be a good fit.
I think it's awesome. I don't know if my mic's on. I think it looks awesome, and the city really needs it and stuff. But I've been looking at how concrete are the plans? Will it go through some processes where people look at the plans, those 14 rooms? I'm looking at it and there's no storage. And my fear is that people are going to just have clutter, and I'm sure you'll have some rules in place or whatnot. Are these going to be long-term people? Because this could go downhill pretty bad. There's no garages, no storage rooms. It doesn't even look like many closets in there.
Do you hear the
That's just my-
question, Kevin?
I heard half of it. If you don't mind repeating
Corinne,
that.
one of the board members, was asking about, one, has this gone through site plan review yet with the planning folks? But I think her bigger question was, she didn't appear to see much storage in the apartments, and there's no garages, so she was just wondering how you were planning on dealing with that. They didn't even look like there's closets.
It's a great question. There are closets in the bedrooms for sure, but the plans do call for essentially pouring the basement level. I have an elevator that leads down to that level as well, and it's all going to be lit. And although we don't have it drawn into the plans, because for certain different reasons, there is the option to add some kind of storage unit that would be available for the tenants in the lower level that would provide elevator access.
And where are you at with the site plan review? I know some stuff has gone to planning and zoning and been looked at, but have they approved that yet, or is it still working through that?
They have, yeah.
So, all in all, this isn't a real big brownfield plan in terms of the dollars involved compared to some of the ones we've done recently, but it's really an important one for the city and the city's priorities. Mm-hmm. And Kevin has done an enormous amount of legwork, as Roman said, stitching all these incentive programs together, because they all have different requirements and they have moving parts and all of that. But it just goes to show you what a heavy lift it is when you've got these old historic buildings that need a lot of work. So without that, I mean, I think this thing is destined to be demoed because you just can't do it. The numbers don't make sense. I've looked at his pro formas, and you've got to have that level of support to make these work. So that's what he's here asking for. So, you know, I don't know if you've got, you know, we've got Kevin online, if you've got any questions before you guys consider the Brownfield plan anymore, any questions of Ronan?
Yeah, go ahead, sir.
Yeah, I'm sorry I came a little late. I wonder if you could bring me up to speed on the project. What I heard when I came in was something about
You got a thing up?
no tax space or no tax.
So we're not capturing hardly any state taxes. We're only doing things that the state kind of has already said we can do without more approval in the statute. And the reason for that is the MEDC is going to be taking this to their next meeting, and they need to have an approved brownfield plan in their packet for them to be able to consider the funding that they're going to be providing. And the other thing we mentioned was the State Land Bank Authority, in conjunction with the County Land Bank, has given you like a $1.5 million grant, right, Kevin?
Yeah.
Something like that.
That's correct. Yeah.
And that's going to help to do the blight and the stabilization of the building. So you've got private funding, you've got MEDC, you've got State Land Bank, you've got Brownfield Authority. You know, you probably have some debt. There's like 5 or 6 different capital pieces to this project.
Yeah.
Uh-huh.
Yeah, there's a lot of pieces.
Yeah, and there's an Oprah, there's a tax abatement for the first number of years, so it all has to fit, you know, in the pro formas to make sure that
Sure.
they're gonna work, otherwise MEDC won't participate, right? They wanna make sure that it's gonna be a viable project.
Understood.
Yeah.
Understood. Is that all right, sir? Does that answer your question? All right, so what we're looking for is a motion to approve this Brownfield Authority.
So we've got the written motion up that said the Brownfield Authority can act to approve the Brownfield plan contingent upon the city, BRA, and developer entering into a development agreement.
Okay, so that's the motion you want?
Mm-hmm.
All right. Who wants to say that?
My biggest concern is that we give all this money and it looks great and the city needs it and that building needs it. But 15 years down the road, somebody's abandoned it and it's more low-income housing right near the city. That's my biggest concern. What guarantees do we have in place that that doesn't go downhill as soon as the money runs out? Or the money runs out early and they don't have storage, they don't have the plans they've done. And I'm not saying maybe that's the discussion for here, but that's what's holding me back and that's what's on my mind.
Yeah. So
It's a good
I
point.
think you've got a couple things. I mean, one, you know, nobody knows what's going to be here 15 years from now, but the way the financing is laid out, and Kevin can address this, you know, as well. I mean, he's the owner of the building. I guess at some point, if he could satisfy all of the different parties that have an interest in this building, you know, you could sell that. But there's no guarantees, and that's really beyond the scope of what we would even put into a development agreement. We're not going to say, you know, this has to be market rate rent for 30 years because no developer is going to necessarily agree to that. I mean, maybe they want to condominiumize those at some point down the road and sell them as units. I mean, they're just not going to do that. So, Kevin, what kind of assurances can you give to help make sure that, you know, that this is going to be viable and it's not going to become run down again, you know, after you guys put all this money into it?
Well, I mean, that's an interesting question. Short of, you know, I don't know anyone who would invest the amount of money that we would be investing just to throw it down the drain. I mean, that would make no sense financially. It would be in nobody's best interest to do that. I mean, it's in the best interest of the developer to keep the apartments market rate. I know you mentioned low-income housing. The city's talked about essentially affordable housing, which is not that different than low-income housing, and it's a huge need in the city. I specifically pushed to have these ones market rate and not affordable, just because it is better. I feel like it's better for the city long-term. It's better for me long-term. All of the regulation and the regulatory through MISHDA or HUD is not necessary. So I didn't want to have to deal with that. I didn't want to strap the project with any more regulation than is required. So the goal is market rate housing. And because of the land bank blight and stabilization grant, I owe that money back if I sell the building within the first 7 years. So that's a little bit of an obligation for me to at least do well and to not just try and duck and run within the first 7 years. But this for me is a long-term project. I've got no desire currently, no interest in selling. I had some other properties that I sold in 2021 when the market was really high, and I look back now and I go, well, it was great, but I wish I still had those buildings. I don't want to be in the business of churn, picking up a building and selling it and finding another one and selling it. I want to develop these really nice, beautiful assets and hold them forever. So short of me telling you that, and I don't know what the future holds 15 years from now. It could be a lot different. Nobody knows, but it's the risk that we take, and there's a little faith involved. And I hope to show you guys that this is a good decision.
I have a question regarding market rate. What are you estimating market rate rental in today's rate?
We've projected the one-bedroom units at $1,050.
1,050. And did you consider what made you decide on one bedrooms over two?
Well, we ran several different models, and the amount of space that we had versus the amount of additional money that it's like if you turn two one-bedroom apartments into a two-bedroom apartment, you don't get twice the amount of rent. Like I can't rent a two-bedroom for $2,000. But I can rent two one-bedrooms for essentially $2,000. So in order to make the project more profitable, we did chop the units, and they're small, but this is what we've seen in other downtowns across the state, that small they're the first ones to rent. If you've got efficiencies or you've got one-bedroom apartments, those ones are the first to go, highest demand. So, me personally, I'd love a two-bedroom apartment, but I think the data speaks otherwise. And just from a financial standpoint, it is.
From my perspective, Corinne can probably speak up into this too. We're constantly in demand for 2 and 3 bedrooms, not so much 1 bedrooms. That's why I'm asking that, just because I know what our needs are in the community. Obviously, this isn't designed for a 3-bedroom family, especially with the storage things
Right.
that she mentioned. That's not the design there, but so many people are looking for at least that second space, especially as we are dealing with more and more people that are in the community that are that work from home, needing like workspace, even if it's not used as a second bedroom. So I just wanted to throw that out there, just if you do any redesign on it. I know that speaking on the North Channel brewery building, they had 1 and 2 bedrooms above there. Again, those 2 bedrooms rented a lot faster than the 1 bedrooms. And they were very similar. I don't know if you've been in those, but they're very similar to what you have designed here.
Yeah, they did a really nice job with those buildings. Do you know if that building's owner occupied? Does the brewery own the apartments there too? It's different. Okay.
Yep, that's a lease. And they have condoized those now, and they're now being sold.
Gotcha. No, that's a great point. But also to your point, the odds of a family or kids living downtown in that apartment loft style unit is
That's really the market. It's more
Right.
those couples that need more, single person or a couple that need more than 1 bedroom.
Mm-hmm.
Because
I agree with you. It's a tough trade-off because the rent would have to be significantly higher, and in order to justify turning essentially 2 one-bedroom apartments into a 2-bedroom apartment.
Kevin, what happens if you can't rent them? Do you drop the rent? And
Yep.
if you subsequently drop the rent, then you're back in to be competitive. And I, in my gut, as a real estate agent and a property manager, that's what I see happening. And I hope not for your sake, I hope not for the city's sake. I hope it brings in people that can, accommodate that price that only wants 1 bedroom and no storage. But I just want you to think about, if you do have to cut the rate to be competitive, how is that gonna drop the value of the type of people that come in there? And this has nothing to do with Brownfield, just as
Right.
Megan and I are thinking.
Right.
And maybe somebody's pointed that out to you before, but if not, I am.
Yeah, I mean, when we go through our predictions, we've got to take a reasonable amount of, it requires a little bit of forethought to see what we think these units can rent for, and there is always a possibility that they don't rent for what we predict. And then, I mean, the only solution is you let them sit vacant or you lower the rent. And they're not, I mean, that's it, right? There's really no other option. So, in order to get the rents or to get the people in there, we would be forced and obligated to lower the rent in order to accommodate. But that's not the plan, and I think that we've got a good plan moving forward. And it's not like we're trying to rent 100 units at that price. It's only 15. So the odds of I feel confident that we'll be able to find 15 tenants.
And I didn't look at the, again, we just have our things that we think about. Is there a washer and dryer in those, not in the units, but is there in the building?
In unit, yeah, every unit has washer dryer.
Okay, yep, and I don't have the floor plan right in front of me, so they're in every unit, that's great.
Yep.
And that's just speaking from the perspective of, looking at getting $1,050 per month, that's something that's gonna be expected.
Yeah.
So, good, glad to hear that.
Yeah.
Anything?
I feel more confident.
Anything else?
I'll make the motion with whatever wording it says I need to make. Do you have it right there in front of you?
Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
At this time,
At this time, the Brownfield Redevelopment Authority can act to approve the Brownfield plan contingent upon city BRA and developer entering into a development agreement, and I will make that motion.
right, Ed? Right? That's the motion you want?
Need support, that's the motion, yeah.
Yeah, now we need a support. Support or support?
I second it.
And we got support. And we have any discussion over this motion that we're all happy with? If not, you want to call the roll on this one, or should we just go by?
Well, you can just vote.
Okay, all in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. All opposed? And the motion carried. So you've got your approval on that part, buddy.
Okay.
And then hope that works out for you.
So the next,
Go by the plan, girl. If you go by the plan, you heard his plan.
Oh, I've heard it.
Okay, well, we gotta go by the plan, and then we'll
I'm
be.
out there every day.
Okay, moving right along. All right, Ed? We got that one down.
we're good with A.
Okay, approval B, we're in B now. Approval of a development and reimbursement agreement for 141 Washington LLC redevelopment project. Earlier, the Brownfield Redevelopment Authority considered a brownfield plan for the 141 Washington LLC redevelopment project contingent upon the city, the BRA, and the developer entering into a development agreement. The developer has agreed to the terms of a development agreement, which now needs to be considered by the Brownfield Redevelopment Authority. At this time, the Brownfield Redevelopment Authority can act to approve the development and the reimbursement agreement. End.
So we took the city standard format and modified it, a fair piece, because there's no city infrastructure on this one, so we're not doing any of that. And sent it to the city attorney and to Kevin. They both have signed off on it, and so now it's ready for your consideration. And then after, if it's approved here, then it'll go to city council on the what's the date today? The 23rd.
Today's the 9th, I think.
Yeah, it goes on the 23rd. They pushed the meeting back a week just to accommodate being able to vote on this.
Accommodate this? Okay.
Well, because otherwise, we would, I mean, it would be on the next, on the 16th, and there wouldn't be time to get the agenda items ready.
I
So,
got it. Yeah, okay, all right. So, ladies and gentlemen, at At this time, the Brownfield Redevelopment Authority can act to approve or the development and reimbursement agreement or not approve. So that's what we're looking for.
Isn't this what we just talked about?
Yes, we just talked about it.
Yeah, the agreement just outlines what the developer's obligations are, what the city's obligations are in terms of submitting the stuff for approval and then getting paid, and addresses their ability to appeal their taxes and things like that.
Rules and regulations. That's all
Yeah,
it is.
just kind of sets the ground rules for how that's gonna work. And the reality is that, most of the stuff's gonna be down the road a ways, because it's all in the back end, so.
Again, at this time, the Brownfield Redevelopment Authority can act to approve the development and the reimbursement agreement or disapprove. We need a motion one way or the other.
I move to approve the act,
The development and the
reimbursement agreement.
Okay, a motion was made to approve it. Now we need a support.
I will second that motion.
And we have support. And any discussion over the motion that was made? If not, all in favor signify by saying aye. Aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Okay, the agreement has been approved. Okay, Ed?
Okay.
Okay, Kevin?
So, do you have
Now
any
what?
more questions for Kevin before we let him go? 'Cause
Yeah, I was
think,
just gonna ask. I don't know. Do we have any more questions for Kevin? Are you okay with his plan?
I'm okay with his answer.
Man, oh,
I'm not sure I'm okay with the plan.
no, I guess, any more questions for Kevin?
Where's that?
No,
Kevin,
I guess
just to,
not.
just to
After what-
clarify, you're gonna be here in person on the 23rd, right? 7 o'clock for the city council meeting? Perfect.
Yes, sir.
Okay.
Yes.
If you've got,
Thank you all.
I'll have the stuff that you sent me, the renderings. If you got anything more you wanna show, just make sure you either send it to me or bring it up on a thumb drive or something.
15 apart.
Yeah, you bet.
Okay.
Okay.
All right, thanks, Kevin. Have a
Thanks,
nice
everybody.
afternoon. Bye-bye.
Appreciate it.
Okay, bye. Okay. All right, moving to old business then.
Yep.
I'll schedule upcoming meeting dates for 2024. This time, the Brownfield Redevelopment Authority could take action to schedule regular meetings for 2024. Other meetings will be called as needed. So with that in mind, do you have the dates listed below, the 13th, September 10th?
Yeah, so the last meeting, I think we only scheduled through maybe August. I just want to get these on the books.
Sure.
That way, they're there if we need them, because there are some more projects coming down the pipeline.
Okay.
I just don't know when they're gonna actually get to us, but if we don't need them, I'll cancel them well in advance. This is just, otherwise, then you guys get in the habit of having it on your calendar, and it just, it's
Yeah.
better that way. We were doing it as needed before, and I don't think that's the best approach in retrospect.
Well, this way you got it on the books. If
Yeah.
somebody looks, you could say you
Yeah.
have a meeting every month.
Yeah,
Yeah, okay. Is that acceptable with everyone?
Yes.
Meeting dates?
Yeah.
Is the meeting time going to be 4 o'clock or 5?
it's always 4.
It's always at 4 o'clock on the Tuesday,
All right.
okay?
So do we have a consensus there?
What do you need?
Do we have consensus then on that?
Yeah,
Uh,
I think we should do.
Yeah,
Okay.
we've got a consensus. Yeah, that's all approved. All right? Doing down to public comments, communications. We got anything to communicate with? Nothing, I got only correspondence, we got nothing going there, right? And staff reports, you got anything good to say?
So just 3 items. One, the developer of the Lakeside Social, which is the old property down on Arthur Street where the old hotel used to be and the old
Little Caesars.
pizzeria, Little Caesars Pizza.
Oh,
building.
yeah.
They're going through site plan review right now, and they will be submitting a Brownfield application. Actually, I think they've submitted it, but they didn't pay their fee yet, so we're not acting on it until they pay the fee. They thought they'd sent the check in, but they hadn't. So that'll be coming along, and I suspect that that'll be in front of the board before the end of the calendar year. So I think they want to get going on
Still
it.
pushing on that, eh?
Well, they had to take a pause because, and Roman, you may have more information, but the seawall, when the water was high, it collapsed and the water got behind it.
Oh,
So they had some Eagle and Corps of Engineer permitting issues to kind of deal with that. So I think they
That's a
worked.
surprise, that was a pretty hefty seawall there.
Yeah, I mean, water was, it's 30, almost 36 inches lower than what it was though. It's,
Yeah,
it was
well,
over
that's
the
what I
top of
mean.
it.
I don't know if people don't understand, you know, the levels changes, the weather changes,
Yeah.
geez, oh, it's not
So
gonna
it took
be
them a
the
while
same.
to kind of work through that because they were being kind of sticklers, but I think they got that all resolved. Yep, so, that'll be good. So I know there was some comments on the site plans. I think they're gonna have to do, they're not complete yet, so they've got to
That's-
submit
that's
some
fine.
more. But anyway, I think, so that's coming ahead. That's one thing. Second thing is with Hampton Inn, I mean, they're obviously doing very well. They are appealing their taxes. They were allowed to do that one time. So we're working through that process, but it's not adversarial. We expected this. I mean, that's just how it works out because they can't react to it till they get their initial assessment. So we'll be working through that with them. Shouldn't be a big deal, hopefully. And then, you know, we've had interest in the old Dolls Reedmore Music Vault
Oh, yeah.
hotel. You know, the owner of it now isn't going to go through with their project. They're looking to sell it. So we've had some inquiries on that. So stay tuned. I don't know where that's going to lead to, but you know.
So that was the building that they were looking at doing the Airbnbs above and then the restaurant on the lower
Yeah.
level next to Taco Bell?
Yeah,
or
they
not?
let us know in May, I think, that they're not gonna go ahead with that, so.
They're not doing that.
So
But
would-
there's other interest,
So
so.
they were approved for the brownfield, so would
They were approved for a brownfield and an obsolete property rehabilitation act.
transfer to the next person, or will they have to reapply?
The Oprah, we can transfer, council has to approve that. The brownfield plan, unless they're doing kind of the exact same project, they'll have to reapply for that. So, we'll see what, I mean, I don't know anything more of it, I just heard that this morning, that somebody was interested in it, so. And then, I guess I got four things. On the old Ringo Oil building down here, they got, as you know, a land bank grant, and I think you're gonna start seeing some movement on that
Which
here.
one's the Ringo?
Oh, the big ugly brown
Yeah,
one.
down
Right
around
on First Street.
uh,
Just past where the old hotel and the new houses are.
Things in there, like the axe throwing?
No,
going?
no, no.
No,
that
it's
was
the big
across
storage
street.
building with boats. It's,
Is it red?
yeah,
Okay.
Oh,
Yeah.
okay.
that building.
Okay, so that got approved for,
Didn't get approved for anything. The developer met with us probably over a year ago.
okay,
But I
great.
think that's starting to heat back up now as things are kind of moving forward. He got a grant from the land bank to do some work there, probably, I think, to demo it, so.
They
yeah.
needed that, yeah.
And I don't know if he's gonna be coming for a brownfield, but I suspect, especially if it's housing, that they might have some component of that. I'm not sure yet, though. We haven't seen it, but that's coming ahead, so. And I guess the last thing is, the chamber has a new economic development lead, Andrew Stafford is his name, if you haven't met him yet. He took over for Mark Miller, so you might see him at some of these meetings moving forward, so.
Would there be a possibility of asking him to attend a meeting?
I absolutely will do that. You want me to do it on the next one?
Yeah, if you
I
could,
can
would
do
that be
that.
all right, ladies? I mean,
I
at
think
least.
If not, if he can't make it, I'll have him do it in
Well,
September.
yeah, whenever he can make it, I mean, you know.
Yeah, next one that we're available on, so.
Yeah.
That's all I have for updates. Do you have any updates, Roman, on anything?
Hit on Manistee Gateway,
Oh, geez, yeah, totally forgot about that. So the Gateway project is moving slowly, like it has been, but Eagle, so you knew the city had applied and received and has been working through a grant and loan. And the maximum amount of the grant is $1 million, so we had a $700,000 grant. We just applied for another extension on that, and they upped the grant amount by another $300,000, which is good because they've got more contamination down there than they had initially anticipated, so they've got to do more vapor mitigation. So they're working through that. I think the developer was hopeful to have gotten more, but didn't realize that there was $1 million cap on that. So, but that's still, still moving ahead, and they're on work plan, what, 5?
yeah, I think so.
So they're designing the vapor mitigation system right now, and so it's still moving ahead. They're still putting the capital together, and but that's a $70 to $80 million project, so it takes time, right? to
Oh,
do
sure,
that,
sure.
so.
Yeah, already.
But that's good news, the extension and the grant increase.
Yeah, as long as they're moving on it, I guess. Eventually it'll happen, I guess. Or not, I don't know. Anything else there, big guy?
I don't have anything, Ron?
No, no. Okay, members' discussion. This time Chair will ask members of the Brownfield Redevelopment Authority if they have any items they want to discuss. And we'll start with Corinne on my right.
No, nothing I want to discuss.
You sure? Okay. And then we'll move.
I don't know, look at the time right now, should we talk or not? It's
I told you 45 minutes.
It's up to you, you can make it or break it.
I know. If I speak for 30 seconds, I'm gonna push us over, go.
I don't have any.
Nothing? All right, good. And then if nothing else, we got no public comment, and I would entertain a motion to adjourn, correct?
I'll make that motion.
There we go, and support it.
Awesome.
There we go. Any discussion, or would we want to just sit here and talk?
4:45 and 31 seconds, you're 1 second over.
There you go. Glad to have you all here. And we did something today.